Earth had been quiet for too long, too quiet. For years, the Galactic Council watched the blue planet from a distance, waiting for a signal, a message, anything that showed humanity was still active, but nothing came. No transmissions. No exploration ships. No movement. To the Council, Earth looked like a silent world, drifting alone in the dark. Rumors spread across the galaxy: humans have fallen. Some species even celebrated, others felt relieved. A few feared what silence really meant, because humanity was never the type to disappear without reason. Commander Thalion of the Vorth Coalition was one of those few. He stood inside his flagship, staring at Earth on the holographic map. Something about that silence felt wrong. Humans were unpredictable, fierce, and full of strange determination. Their absence felt like a storm waiting behind closed doors. His crew believed Earth was harmless now. Thalion did not. As his fleet approached the solar system, instruments picked up something strange. Faint energy signatures. Faint, but old. Not natural. Not random. And not abandoned. "Sir, these readings," his officer paused, confused. "They're human. But they're encrypted. Deep encryption." Thalion frowned. Humanity may have gone quiet, but their fingerprints were still there. Hidden, buried. Locked away behind something powerful. Then, without warning, every sensor on the ship went dark just for a heartbeat. A cold silence filled the bridge. What was that? Someone whispered. No one answered, because they all felt it, a presence, heavy and ancient, watching them from somewhere in the void. The stars outside flickered. Something enormous moved in the distance. Thalion's breath slowed. That is not natural. Humanity was silent. But the silence was not empty. It was the silence before something awakens, and it had just opened its eyes. "Commander." Thalion's fleet drifted cautiously near Earth's moon. The silence of space pressed against the windows of his bridge. The crew spoke in whispers now, afraid their voices might wake something unseen. Their scanners kept glitching flickers of invisible objects. Brief pings of massive shapes, then nothing. It felt like trying to see a predator hiding in tall grass. Thalion leaned forward. "Run a deep spectrum scan. Full power." The officer hesitated. "Sir, if something is hiding, it might notice us." "It already has," Thalion replied quietly. The scan burst out like a wave of light. For 2 seconds, everything looked normal. Then the ship's holographic display exploded with red warnings. The map filled with outlines, massive outlines. Hundreds of them. Long rectangular holes, silent engines, impossibly thick armor. They were not on the moon's surface. They were behind it. "Impossible," the navigator whispered. "These readings show warships, but they're huge. Much larger than anything the humans ever built." Thalion felt his heart freeze. No, they're exactly what humans would build. If they were preparing for a war, no one survived. The ships remained dark, powered down, like sleeping giants. But then one of the shapes moved. Not much. Just a tiny shift. Yet that tiny movement shook every soul in the fleet. A low hum vibrated through space. The sound didn't come through speakers. It came through the hull itself, like a beast stretching after a long sleep. "Sir, one of them is charging power," the engineer said. Voice trembling, Thalion stared at the massive dreadnought rising from the moon's shadow. Engines glowing faint purple. They were not hiding, he whispered to himself. They were waiting. And now, humanity's silence was breaking, one awakening warship at a time. The first dreadnought rose fully from behind the moon, its enormous hull glowing with soft purple lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. Commander Thalion's crew watched in stunned silence. No alien fleet, not even the Council's elite armadas, possessed a vessel of this size. This was not a ship, this was a moving fortress. Then, without warning, a second dreadnought drifted into view. Then a third. Then 5 more. One by one, they awakened, silent, steady, ancient like ghosts, returning from a forgotten war. The moon's shadow peeled away to reveal an entire fleet. Humanity hadn't vanished, it had been preparing. Thalion whispered, How did no one see this? His sensor officer swallowed hard. Sir. They masked their signatures under the moon's natural magnetic field. We never thought humans had this level of technology. The nearest dreadnought rotated slowly, its weapon ports shifting, but not aiming. Not threatening. Not attacking. It felt almost observational, as if it was studying Thaline's small fleet. Lights flickered across its hull, forming patterns codes, signals, but none of them matched any known human transmission. They're communicating, Thaline said. But with whom? Before anyone could answer, a low rumbling voice echoed over their comms. The source was unknown. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't even meant for them. It was a countdown. Initiation cycle. Phase 1. Humanity protocols engaged. Stand by. The Dreadnoughts' engines glowed brighter. Their hulls tightened, reshaping slightly. Adjusting like mechanical muscles waking from hibernation. Thaline felt chills run down his spine. They weren't waiting for us, he realized. They were waiting for someone else. Suddenly, the entire human fleet turned toward deep space. Not toward Earth. Not toward Thaline, but towards something approaching from the void. Something far worse than anything the Council had ever imagined. The Dreadnoughts pointed toward the far edge of the solar system, their engines glowing brighter, shifting from calm purple to sharp, burning white. Commander Thaline's fleet followed their gaze, the dark stretch of empty space where nothing should exist, but something was there. A distortion, a ripple, a wound in space itself. Thaline's senses trembled under the pressure. This is not natural, he whispered. The distortion widened, swallowing starlight. Strange shapes moved inside dark, twisted silhouettes with no clear edges. Not ships, not life, not anything the galaxy had catalogued before. A deep vibration rolled across every hull, almost like the universe exhaling. Then the humans' dreadnoughts reacted. For the first time, their dormant weapons warmed to life. Vast rail cannons extended. Shield layers unfolded like metallic wings. Energy coils spun in massive rings, humming with power. Sir, the weapon officer said shakily, they're preparing for war. But against what? Thaline demanded. The answer came seconds later. The distortion tore open, unleashing a wave of black needle-like constructs, thousands of them flooding into normal space. They moved with terrifying precision, forming a perfect sphere formation around the solar system. Thaline's crew froze. These are not council ships. Not from this galaxy, Thaline said, voice cracking across the comms. The same ancient human voice returned. Phase 2, external hostile, detected. Awakening remaining dreadnoughts, protect the cradle. The moon rumbled as even more titanic shapes emerged, another row of sleeping giants, now stirring, their engines burning with new life. Dust cascaded off their hulls like old memories falling away. Thlen finally understood. Humanity didn't hide because they were weak. They hid because they knew something was coming, something the galaxy wasn't ready to face. And now, that nightmare had arrived. The question was no longer where humans went, it was whether anyone could survive what was coming next. The alien constructs swarmed forward like a black storm, thousands of needle-shaped vessels moving with unnatural speed. They did not send warnings. They did not demand surrender. They launched a silent, coordinated attack directly toward Earth. Humanity's dreadnoughts reacted instantly. The lead human warship, an enormous titan with glowing white engines, shifted its formation and unleashed a blast of energy so bright it washed across the stars. The beam tore through the first wave of invaders, cutting them apart like paper. The shockwave rippled across Thaline's fleet, shaking even his strongest shields. His crew stared in disbelief. No species should have this kind of power, one officer whispered. But humanity did, and they had built it in silence. More dreadnoughts moved into position, forming a defensive line around Earth and the Moon. Their weapons fired in perfect rhythm, massive cannons, piercing lasers, swirling energy shields that bent attacks sideways. Every shot was precise, efficient, devastating. The enemy responded with terrifying unity. Their ships twisted and reformed mid-flight, combining into larger shapes, black spiked titans that fired beams strong enough to melt asteroids. One such beam struck a human dreadnought, but instead of collapsing, its armor absorbed the impact. Glowing red, before releasing the energy outward, like a THUNDER-CLAP.THALE was shaken. Humans evolved their technology in isolation. They weren't preparing for the Council. They were preparing for this. A deep, resonant command echoed from the largest human dreadnought. Phase 3, engage planetary shield. Do not allow breach. A moment later, Earth itself shimmered. A massive blue shield expanded from the planet's poles, wrapping around the world like a glowing cocoon. Lightning rippled across its surface. Earth was protected as the battle raged across the void. One truth became clear. Humanity was not defending itself alone. It was defending the entire galaxy from an enemy no one else had even imagined. And the final phase had not yet begun. The battlefield burned with light. Human dreadnoughts moved like giants of steel, pushing back the black invaders with relentless force. Every explosion lit the darkness for a moment, revealing the scale of the war. Thousands of enemy constructs still pouring through the rift. Commander Thaline's fleet stayed behind the human line, witnessing a level of courage and power no Council species had ever shown. Humanity fought with a purpose deeper than survival. They fought with the weight of something ancient, something promised. The largest dreadnought, the Prime Sentinel, shifted forward, its hull glowing brighter than a star. Inside its core, energy swirled like a living storm. Thaline watched in awe. They're charging something. But it's too big. It could tear space apart. Suddenly, the ancient human voice spoke one last time. Final phase, collapse the rift. All units prepare for sacrifice. Thaline's blood froze. No. They're going to destroy the rift from inside. A shockwave hit as the Prime Sentinel accelerated, diving straight toward the enemy swarm. Enemy constructs crashed into it, trying to stop its course, but the dreadnought didn't slow. Every cannon it had fired continuously, clearing a burning path. Then, for the first time, Thaline saw a human message appear on the ship's exterior lights, simple, powerful, haunting: protect the cradle. Tell them we never left. The Prime Sentinel plunged into the center of the rift. A blinding white flash consumed everything. When the light faded, the rift was gone. The enemy was gone. And the Prime Sentinel was gone to. Silence filled the solar system. Then Earth's planetary shield lowered slowly. Like a sigh of relief, Thalen stood straight. Humanity did not vanish, he said softly. They stood alone so the galaxy wouldn't fall. Across the galaxy, every species would soon learn the truth. Humans were silent because they were preparing to save everyone, and they did, at the cost of their greatest giant, and the end of a legend no one would forget.